Brewster here with Brewster's Millions of Rants, and this is What's Your Amp? And since I've started this channel, I've had lots of comments and requests and messages and praise. I've also had some complaints and people that were kind of, confused or upset about my format and the way I do things here, which I realize I talk, but that's a big part of education and instruction is informing people. So I do apologize for talking a lot. I'm a very talkative person. I'm a teacher, I'm a writer. I'm a very friendly, kind of outgoing person, usually, and this is just who I am. The number one comment or question I've received was kind of surprising too, because I haven't really, drawn too much attention to the amp over here. I don't really feature gear that much, obviously the guitar I'm playing, I've talked about Hawk Picks, definitely a great pick company from England. But I really don't feature the equipment so much. Other people on YouTube, other YouTubers and, content creators, I've noticed it's like the first thing they talk about is their guitar or their pedals or their, interface or computer or whatever. But that's important. I mean, don't misunderstand, my focus here. I'm focused on playing and, education and inspiration and being creative and gear is important. The guitar you play, the amp you play, the pedals you have, additional accessories or whatever, all of that is very important, obviously. But it shouldn't be the only focus. And it does seem like a lot of players out there in the modern age are very gear focused. There's a high level of gear lust, everywhere. When I was a teenager, it seemed like, a lot of people had Marshall amps and eventually ADA. And then you fast forward, everybody had Line 6 and there was a boogie phase for a while. Everybody had Mesa Boogie. Paul Reed Smith. It seems like lately there's a lot of Kiesel and a lot of, Kemper amps and stuff like that. And that's fine. But I have noticed this trend of a lot of players playing the exact same guitar, same amp, same pedals, same computer, same interface, same recording software. Some of these people even look alike. They sound alike, they look alike. I can't even really tell them apart, where it's like, oh my gosh, these 10 people are almost all the same person, or the same player. And to me, that seems a little weird. But it's a Behringer Vampire LX112. That's from 2004, and I bought it brand new, and it was basically a lessons amp. I was using it in my studio to teach with. And I got really familiar with it and really liked it. And I thought, man, this thing actually sounds pretty good for like a $200 amp. I was really impressed. And after I started teaching with it, like about a year or so, I found myself and I started taking it to gigs occasionally. And it worked great at gigs, and had some recording dates set up, with a player. And I started, doing some recording sessions and I brought it to the recording session and it worked great. The person I was recording with was really impressed. Like, wow, that thing sounds amazing. As far as the amp in question, here's just kind of a 20-second tour of the front of this Behringer Vampire. You can obviously see I've added a lot of buttons and pins and just random things to the grill, like on the front. And that started very simply. It really originally was just the tool patch, that I added like right above the speaker. There's one, 12-inch speaker in there. And then over the years, after I added that tool patch, I started to stick pins in there. And I thought, well, that looks kind of fun. I'll keep doing this. And then the next thing I knew, of course, it got carried away. And I've kind of encircled the 12-inch speaker with just all this random stuff over the years. But it doesn't seem to affect anything, really. So I don't know, it's kind of cool. And then here's a video just taking a quick tour of the back of the amp so you can see some of the additional, outputs and inputs and the speaker and whatnot. This is really just necessity. I've got some other amps sitting right over there. There's actually kind of a top secret rig that I'm assembling that I've been putting together this year. There's also a top secret pedal board over there that I've been putting together this year. And I'm going to feature the new rig, and we're also going to have kind of a focused pedal board lesson or rant, in the very near future. And I've just been assembling that just to have different tones, and I've literally been assembling those specifically, for this channel. And of course I can gig and do other things with them too, but I wasn't hiding this information. I just wasn't quite ready to share it yet, but it's coming. There's the tour of the amp. And, I've mentioned this in a few other videos, but there's a setting that I like to use on this vampire. And I've mentioned this in other videos. I've noticed in comments, people refer to my tone setting, but it's setting 2B, or, patch number 2, and then amp selection or preset B. 2B, when you first kick on the amp and you set it to 2B, it sounds like this. It's got this big 80s, kind of heavy, huge sound. Some delay, reverb, big, distortion, big tone. So that's the preset. That's the factory preset where it starts. And even though I have used that tone before, I usually tweak it from there. The gain and the bass and the treble I turn down. I just bump up the mid just ever so slightly. I turn the reverb and delay down just a few notches, or turn them down a little bit. And then I also put a little bit more space between the repeats. And there is a tap tempo, button right on the front of the amp. Built-in tuner. There's all kinds of stuff built in this thing. But that would be something like this. So just the kind of aggressive, edgy rock tone sounds amazing, but then you start rolling the gain back and it cleans up really nice, and you almost have this kind of crisp, kind of spanky sound, not as much gain, a little bit. And we turn that gain back up and you can hear the difference. Turn it back down. And I like the way that sounds. Got a little less gain, overdrive, kind of cleans up a little bit. And there I just barely have the volume turned up on my guitar, a little bit more. And then start changing the pickups so you can get those kind of in-between stratty, blues rock tones. Great sounds. So this was basically a copy of the Fender Cybertwin, back when this came out, like in the early 2000s. The Cybertwin was really popular, and then Behringer released this, which was kind of their version, kind of a, dumbed down or watered down version of the Cybertwin. And I knew what it was. I plugged into it looking for something to, teach with, basically. And then the next thing I knew, it intruded on stages, it intruded in recording sessions, and it still works. I never got rid of it simply because it was so inexpensive, and I thought, well, what am I going to get, like $50, $70 or something for this thing? And I've just held on to it because it continued to work. The important thing here is to find gear, instruments, amps, accessories, pedals and stuff, but find gear that resonates with you, that speaks to you, that inspires you, that you actually, hook up and you plug into it and play it or listen to it and you like it. And don't worry about what some famous player's using or what some friend of yours or somebody online said. Don't listen to that, or don't pay attention to that and think that's the only way. There's 1,000 or 1,000,000 different ways, and I think this amp is kind of a glowing testament to what I'm talking about, because it's confused a lot of you. Like, what are you playing through, Kemper? And it's like, no, I'm playing through an old Behringer Vampire that was barely $200. But that's not normal. I think most people expect to see something, and when it's not there, if it's not a Marshall or a Boogie or a Fender or whatever, they're shocked and confused, like, you're using what? I did want to say, some of you are very observant, far more observant than I thought, just random strangers on the internet would ever be. I mean, from the albums I have on the wall, toys that I have arranged or set up, behind me, little figures and whatnot, obviously the equipment and the gear, But I have made some upgrades, and I wanted to talk about those just briefly. I did buy a pre-wired Fender pickguard, and I've had questions about the new pickguard and the new pickups. That's a Shawbucker and two Fender noiseless, and it was all pre-wired. I think I got this from Sweetwater. And also last year I did upgrade the tuners on the Strat, and those are Fender, locking tuners. I also got those from Sweetwater. But those two upgrades have made my Strat feel and sound like a brand new guitar. The other big upgrade I made, basically it started last year and then continued into this year. I also got locking Grover Les Paul tuners for my Les Paul. And I did replace the electronics in this guitar just recently. It was a couple months ago. But I got the pre-wired Emerson kit from Sweetwater, and it was all ready to go. I just had to, replace the old set of, pots and everything and electronics. And that made a huge difference in this guitar as well. It sounds more like a Les Paul than it ever has. And I'm very, very happy with the tuner and electronics upgrade I've made in both of these guitars. That's going to wrap this rant video. So leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content material. Thank you.